My name is Jacob Crutchfield Jones. I'm 16 years old. Today is January 31st, 2021. I'm recording this interview in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm speaking with Mrs. Rita Jane. This is an interview for the Soloists from the Choir, a Boston Black Church oral history project. And with that, we'll get right into our first question, Mrs. Rita Jane. Our first question is, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Roxbury, and I am the youngest of 5. And my grandmother was born and raised in Roxbury. And then obviously my mom, and then she met my dad. And then we all just, lived in Roxbury and went to school, Boston Public Schools, up until high school.
Okay. So it's like a family tradition almost, I feel like.
Yeah, and most of my family's still in Roxbury too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, who was the first person that brought you to your church?
My grandmother. So I was 5 years old when she brought me to church, and we had children's church. And instead of children's church was like up in a balcony. And we would have children's church once a month. And the first song that I learned to sing was Jesus Loves Me, This I Know.
Yeah, that's
and it is. And so after we learned it, we all had to like file in and stand in front of everybody in front of the church and sing it. So that was my first church memory with my grandmother, because she was a usher.
Oh, and remind me, what's the name of your church?
Well, at that time, it was Charles Street AME.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the church that you could attend to right now?
You really want to know? Greater Framingham Community Church. Can you hear me? Oh, he froze.
Now, can you?
So the church that I go to now is Greater Framingham Community Church in Framingham.
And how long have you attended that church now?
Oh, wow. So I'm going to say maybe, so maybe 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Off and on, 15 years, so.
I'd say that's as well.
Yeah.
Can you share a conversation or an experience or a story about how you came to faith? Like how your grandma.
Well, okay. So it's really interesting because I don't have like a starting date, because even as a little kid, like when I would go outside to play, I would always go to the neighborhood. I would always go to the neighborhood church. Mm-hmm. And because there was always some activities going on. And so then I started going on like one day a week as a teenager for Bible study. Okay. And then I went to a Catholic high school and had Bible study there. And then I went to a Catholic college. I went to BC and I studied religion. Oh, wow. And then after I studied theology, I should say. And then after I got out of, graduated from BC, I didn't go to church very much because I felt that I was grown, and I didn't have to anymore. I could do what I wanted to do. But then when it came time for my third child, then I was like, okay, we need to go back to church. So I would say at that moment, it was like 35 years ago. So that was kind of like the defining moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
Since attending Greater Framingham Community Church, what role has the church played in your life?
Oh my gosh. The church has really been a community, just like a second family. And I've always, ever since I joined the church, I've always been in the choir. Okay. And so, And one of my best friends in the choir is your auntie, Donna. Yeah. Is she your aunt? She's your auntie?
She's actually my grandmother, but
your grandmother, right?
Will appreciate for you calling her my auntie. She'll really appreciate that.
I know. And so she's just a love, and that's one of the most important things, and one of the things that I really like about Greater Framingham is how we're just it feels like just such a close-knit family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say your relationship is with the pastor, Reverend Dr. J. Anthony Lloyd?
Oh, he's just a sweetie, lovable teddy bear. He's, what I love about him is he's so smart. He's smart. He's intelligent. He can see what we can't see. And he just really cares about each and every one of us. And for a while when I stopped going to church because I was just going through some changes, he continued to reach out to me. And so that's how he is. He watches over his flock. And, we're not just numbers to him. He really cares about all of us. Yeah. So that's one of the blessings and joys of having him as a pastor.
That's very nice. Our next question is, what kind of relationship has your church had with the broader Black community over the years?
Well, again, that's Reverend Lloyd. He always connects his sermons, to what's going on in the world, like at this very moment. It's not like what happened last week or what happened 2 weeks ago. It's like what's happening now. And he is so very active in the community. And, he just wants the best for Black people, but he wants the best for all people who are struggling and have been disenfranchised. So the church and Reverend Lloyd have really been making a connection between the community life and the church life.
Nice. Actually, I do agree 100%. He always tries to connect it with today's issues and the society today. Our next question is, in what ways do you observe your church being distinct or similar to other churches? Or our biggest, what makes our church unique?
Really? What makes it unique? What makes it unique? It's so busy. I think Greater Framingham has something that if you say, I think it's very hard for somebody to say, well, I can't find something to do in the church. Yeah. Because there's always something to do for the babies, for the teenagers, for the people in the middle, for the old folks. There's always a way that you can get involved in Greater Framingham. And so I think that's one of the ways. It doesn't feel like just a Sunday church. You know what I mean? It's just like everyday church.
Especially with all the activities going on, even all not just on Sundays,
right.
Every day there's always something.
Something, right.
And with that, what would you say your favorite memory with the church is?
Well, I went on I'm not going to say it right, but I went to the African American History and Cultural Museum in Washington, D.C. with the members from the church. It was a bus trip, and that was a beautiful time to get to know people outside of the church setting and to see the new African American Smithsonian Museum in DC. So that was beautiful, Yes.
And that actually leads perfect into the next question, which is, can you share an important moment that helped shape your identity as an African American woman?
Well, yeah. When I was in high school, I went to an all-white high school. So there were predominantly all white. So there were 554 girls and 4 Black girls. And so I was a senior, and I went to my principal and I asked her for a recommendation. And I was going to go to Harvard's sister school, Radcliffe. And she said, we only give recommendations for the cream of the crop. You would make a nice Negro dancer. So I was like, okay. So of course I went home and told my mother what she said. And my mom had a fit, of course, because that's how my mother was. And so I didn't say anything to my principal, but I did go back with my acceptance letter. So I guess I really didn't need her recommendation because I got my interview and, got accepted. So it was, so it let me know that this is going to be a tough life, being a Black woman in America, and you have to persevere. You can't let what people say to you hold you back. You just have to just go on and do what in your heart is the right thing to do it. And you have to do it in such a way that brings class and grace to you. And the light shines on you and not on them. So, yeah.
100%. Can you share a story where your faith gave you the courage to speak out against injustice?
Wait, okay. So to speak out against injustice. That's a toughie. I guess for most of my life, since my oldest daughter is 45, and so there's 5 kids. There's 5 kids altogether. And, just knowing that whenever they came home with racist things that people would say to them, just giving them the faith and having the faith to know that they would be able to handle that situation. And then I would just give them the wisdom to handle it, that in the words that I got from my mother. So my mother she was precious. She would just sit you down and she would go, okay, Rita Jane, this is what you're going to say. And then she would tell me exactly what to say. And I'm like, oh, mommy, I know what to say, but I was really listening. I was really listening. And then, so my mom really gave me that kind of faith to be able to stand up for what was unjust. And I passed that on to my kids.
Wow. And actually, do you mind elaborating? Like, can you explain like the role that your mother has played on your life?
Oh, geez, she was, man, she was incredible. She was just an incredible woman. So she worked 2 jobs, and my father worked 2 jobs, and they put 5 kids through college.
Wow.
Okay, so I mean, I think that's unbelievable. And then in terms of my dad, who was the cutest thing on this planet, if I brought home a B, he would say, because he was from Georgia, and he would say, Miss Rita Jane, if you can get a B, try a little harder, you can get an A. And so even now, like I'll be 70, and even now I remember that, so
I'm sure it's stuck. Shoot.
Yeah. I mean, it's true though, right? If you can get a B, you just stay up like 1 more hour, or you try a little harder to study for that test or whatever, you can get the A. You can get the A.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What do you feel most grateful for in your life?
What do I feel most grateful for? I feel most grateful because I know that God has my back. I feel most grateful for the fact that I know that, like when I got up this morning to make breakfast, I just looked in the refrigerator and there were 3 eggs, and I wasn't sure. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to have for breakfast? And by the time we finished, we had potato pancakes, grits, bacon, and eggs and juice. So God just provides. Yeah. You know, when I looked in the refrigerator, all I saw was 3 eggs. But God just, you know what I mean? God just, you know, so I'm just most grateful for the fact that like I can lean on God, that he is there for me, you know, and he may be there for everybody in the whole world, but I know that God, Jesus Christ are there for me. So that's really what I'm grateful for.
Lovely. That actually leads to perfectly into the next question. Can you describe a time when God tested your faith and how you overcame it?
Well, so, I mean, I don't know that if I had anything to do with this, but when I was a little girl, I was really, really sick. I was very, very sick. And the doctors told my mother that I wasn't going to live beyond 19 years old. Wow. So God had other plans.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? God had other plans. And so I'm just here to do what he needs me to do. Yeah. So let me see if there's another one. I mean, to be honest with you, Jacob, it's like your faith gets tested every day, you know, but we just have to be willing and able to just close our eyes for that split second and say, yeah, I am going to pass this test. Or because, you know, the devil will make you think you didn't study hard enough. Or, you know, I may say, you know, like if we drive up to a parking to try to park the car and I can't get a parking space, I know that, you know, I'm not going to say, oh, I can't find a parking space. I'm going to say, God, can you please find a parking space for us? You know, so instead of speaking negative, I just speak the word of God because I know God is the provider. And I can't think of any, like, I'm sure, you know, I'm sure that there are plenty, but I just can't think of a real specific one right now.
No worries. But that was, you still described it really well. What is your favorite Bible story and why?
So, okay. So I do have a favorite Bible story, and it's not like real, like crazy, like religious, you know, like crazy. I mean, it is, but it isn't. So, okay. So it's when God parted the Red Sea so that the Israelites could go through. I mean, just think of that. Just think of that. How, you know, we sing the song, God will make a way. You know, he just made a way just to move that water out the way so that people could just go through on the other side safely. And that's what God does for us. He continually, every day, makes a way for us. And so that's my favorite Bible story.
That story is definitely incredible.
It is.
And this is our final question. Can you imagine life outside of the faith community?
No. You know why? Because I don't know if all Christians do this, but sometimes you kind of go through a period of where you know, in your life where you stop going to church and, you know, for whatever reasons, and then you go back to church. Life without the faith community, no matter what material things you have, it's just empty. It's just very empty, and you don't have any support. You don't have a spiritual support. You may have like your running buddies and stuff like that, but we all need to have a spiritual support system where we can say, you know, I feel down right now. I feel sad, or I feel anxious about something. And so you need to have somebody in the faith community to go to support you. Or, you know, a parent might say, I'm trying not to kill my kid. Can I just, you know, can you, can I come over your house for an hour just so I can get away, you know, or in that. And so, you know, or you could say, I need somebody to pray with me or whatever. But life without the faith community would just be empty. Yeah.
100%, I agree with you. Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Rita Jane. Your input on all these questions was amazing. I'm sure this is gonna love it and just enjoy everything that you had to say. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Now, am I going to see you when church opens back up? Are you at Greater Framingham?